Breaking news. They're coming for the kids. We're coming for them! Sisters broken badges flashing in the night. Knock down doors, no warrant, no right. Take the children, tear the families apart. Hide behind protection while you rip out the heart. Files fabricated, lies on the stand. Judges in their pocket, money changing hands. Parents screaming, cameras never show. The real abuse happens when the CPS shows. Scott ever standing, fighting Tennessee DCS. Forced separation, they tore the family from his chest. Placed on a registry, no charges, no crime. Blount County DCS crossing every line. Evers versus the state, lawsuit in federal court. Exposing the corruption, tearing that system apart. Years of battle, justice delayed, but not denied. A father's resolve with truths on his side. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fall. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. Another case buried, another life destroyed. Numbers manipulated, stories over deployed. They call it protection, we call it abduction. State-sponsored kidnapping, legal corruption. Parents labeled unfit for daring to speak. Question the system and they label you weak. We document every raid, every lie, every theft. The resistance is growing, no more silent regret. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fade. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Oh, now the people are waking. And we're coming for your throne. No more silence. No more fear. The revolution starts right here. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every single day. Got it for CPS. Your kingdom's gonna break for every parent, for every child set free. CPS, we're gunning for thee. This is the podcast, Gunning for CPS, hosted by Scott Evers. Relentless in his fight, Evers versus Tennessee DCS. A father who refuses to yield, exposing every injustice, demanding accountability, reclaiming what was taken. The battle continues. Stay vigilant. The truth is our weapon.
This is the reckoning. Blount County CPS.
Your time has come!
Gunner Evers was rising, shadow in the fight. Blount County CPS stealing children in the night. No warrant, no warning, they crossed every line. Took his child away, tried to bury the crime.
Fabricated files, twisted every truth. Placed him on a registry with no proof.
Federal court now watching every move they make.
The system is shaken, the foundation starts to break.
No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is
Coming here, the battle cries. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS. Your empire's in flames. The reckoning.
justice finally calls your name.
For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay.
There's hell to pay.
Evers versus Blount lawsuit cutting deep, exposing corruption, secrets they can't keep. Years of separation, heart ripped from his chest. Yet he stands unbreakable, refusing to rest. No charges filed, but they branded him a threat. Now the court is watching, collecting their debt. Blount County, DC, yes, your days are numbered fast. The father's fight is real, this reckoning will last.
No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is coming.
Hear the battle cry. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS. Your empire's in flames. The reckoning.
Justice finally calls your name.
For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay.
There's hell to pay. You came for the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the reckoning rises, and you stand alone. Alone, 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 alone.
No mercy. No escape. The people are awake. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers leads the fight. Blount County CPS. Vanishing from sight. The reckoning. The walls are crashing down tonight. For every parent watching. For every stolen child. The reckoning is here. And we're running wild.
Gunner Evers, still standing strong. Blount County CPS. The reckoning has only just begun. Truth is the weapon.
Justice will be gone.
I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gotta be biblical.
Well, who are we going to piss off today? Well, let me tell you something, guys. Welcome, first off, to Gunning for CPS, and I'm your host, Gunner, and also the guy with the only and the first case of its kind in the history of our country to challenge and put out there with constitutional questions and enough to expose the whole corrupt CPS system. Everybody that's involved through all of it, with 8 constitutional questions that, once again, these are some of the things that you guys have come up with. We've seen online. They've been discussed, this and that. Now the research has been done. The backing, the memorandums of law have been assembled. And now they must be answered. Now, understand, this is federal division court. If we don't like it, which there was something that happened, you'll notice in constitutional question number 2. Why does it say motion for this, and that? Because the judge did something in the case that triggered it. And what that does is it gives us a golden opportunity for the court to correct itself and answer all constitutional questions before we proceed. If we do not like these, or we know that they're going to rule a certain way, they give us the golden ticket. The golden ticket to go to the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals to do what's called a de novo review of all constitutional questions. In other words, a fresh look, new perspective, not go over off of existing case law or rulings, and once again, following those constitutional canons. Now, this has been months of research, several different input from several different people that are part of the team and different places that we've pulled these things from. But tonight we're going to go over things that you guys are out there and you've been paying attention. I know you guys are saying, well, Gunnar, what are the constitutional questions? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's dig into it. Let's just get, let's start off with one video real quick, and then we're going to really get into it because I got a few things to do here in the back room here real quick. But watch this and see if this doesn't blow your mind. You're going to freak out.
Number 5 is Canada, with most missing children every year out of anywhere in the world. Number 5 is Canada, with 45,000 children going missing every year. Number 4 is India, with over 96,000 missing children reports being sent in every year. For number 3, we head to Germany, with over 100,000 children that go missing every year. For number 2, we have the United Kingdom, where the reports total over 112,000 missing children each year. For number 1, we go to where I live, the United States, where the FBI says there are over 460,000 missing children reports put in every single year. Now that means the United States has more children that go missing every single year than all of the other 4 countries combined. In the United States, there are many towns that have a smaller population than the amount of children that go missing every year. Do you understand how unfathomably big 460,000 really is?
There you have it. We are the largest state-sponsored child trafficking organization in the world with the most missing children. They're not missing. They know exactly where they're at. Now, are you ready? Now, you guys have got to get involved in here, especially in the back room. If you're watching this, we've got people that are watching. Interact with us. And if you can't interact and you're not seeing your comment come up, go on YouTube, okay, and go to Gunning for CPS. Type it in, because we see those. We're having trouble. I do see some of the stuff for Facebook is coming in, but a lot of the other platforms like TikTok and some of the others, I'm not seeing those comments. So just so you guys know, if you're watching this, just take a minute, switch over. Trust me, we're not going to do anything major or big, but give you a few minutes. But at the same time too, get people to go on there now. Say, hey man, he's getting ready to release the concert. You guys got to watch this. Get out there and watch this. And get people out there. This is where you need to start. This is where you guys come into play with this. And let me explain. But let's dig into this. Number 1, and we're just going to go to, let's see if I can do it here. Blah, 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 blah. I believe it is. Nope, not that one. Sorry, guys. Let me fix this. I was in the wrong one. What we're going to do is on our Facebook page, okay, Gunning for CPS, and I will share that from my profile. If you're on Facebook, I'll probably do a video on TikTok. You're going to get a link, and what that is a link to all the constitutional questions, 1 through 8, and like I said, a few other things that are in there. But read these; they will blow your mind. And what we're going to do over the next couple weeks is dig into those constitutional questions and go really, really in depth. Because what we want to do is make sure you understand that. Okay. Because this is a very powerful tool, because if you have an open or active case, you can actually turn around and say, listen, there's a constitutional question before the courts right now. Do you realize, because I have my open case and because it deals with this matter or that matter, or this happened to me, you have to stop. What do you mean you have to stop? You're going to have to stop, but you can't hold my children. So we can't proceed till this is done, because right now what it's looking like, this happened to me. If they say this is unconstitutional, that's a criminal act, and a term called fruit from a poisonous tree takes and applies automatically that, hey, I had a Fourth Amendment violation. Where's your warrant? Produce it. If not, we can't go any further. And if you go further, you're now a criminal act, and basically saying, I'm going to walk out of the courtroom. Once again, it deals with jurisdiction. It deals with this, and saying, hey, listen, you got to put everything on pause. This is all 50 states. This is not just one. Okay. It starts here in Tennessee, starts with this case, but a constitutional question must be answered, which they also have to wait for the time if we want to do an appeal, which that's the Supreme Court. And we already know, and we expect, once again, this is part of what's called legal strategy. I want you to answer these questions. I want you to kick them back and not give me the answer to the questions, like one of them being number 2 on judicial immunity. Read it, because it exposes them. You'll have to forgive me. We've had some bad weather, and I've got this finding a compound sinus infection, and it's really dry with some of that medication they give you. Just water, ice, and good old-fashioned lime juice. Matter of fact, if I would sponsor one of them, it's actually Key West limes. Makes a great juice. It's a little bit sweeter than just regular plain old lime juice. And it's an amazing thing to do. But now, you guys ready? Come on, because here we go. Yeah, this is about to blow your mind, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the press release. And hello, guys. Let's just go through this. Let me get to my chat. Say hello. We've got, where are we at? We have Robert Baxley. Hello, Robert. Allison Smith. James Richards, local right there. Tammy. And you got Daisy Bortaco, 1885, saying hello and checking in. And some of you other guys, let's see, we're here. We've got Alicia Pongratz through here. And we've got Ronnie T through here. We've got a lot of others, but you guys, this is going to blow your mind, because, well, with no further ado, let me see if I can pull this bad boy up. I'm going to show you the press release. Now, what this press release does before, once again, I get this thing open, is what this press release does. This is a national press release that is done by me. You attach the link in your emails. Now, let me explain something. This is for all the local news station, national news stations, whether it goes to your state capital or anything else. Put this out there, then you attach the link to the drive that leads them to the constitutional question. Here's the key. Do not put multiple media sources in the to box or BCC, this and that. They actually have something there that will kick you out and, consider it spam. So if you do it, just, NBC News, channel blah, 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 15, W, and say, I don't know, Springfield, Illinois, or something like that, or Indianapolis, Indiana. Some of those things are the newspapers and stuff that still runs news. Hey, here, you need to pay attention to these questions. Why? I've already met the requirements. I've already mailed these out to the state attorney general for the state of Tennessee and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington. So I have met the criteria. This is now on the record. They must answer these questions before we can proceed. And they're saying, well, why do they have to answer it, Gunner? Because I need to know whether or not this stuff was unconstitutional, because what a lot of you guys don't know, in federal civil court, for each count of a constitutional rights violation, there can be multiple counts, just like criminal. They each have a preset dollar amount for each violation of the Constitution or of those constitutional rights. So here, dun, 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 here we go. And I'm going to blow this up, and hopefully I don't know if it's going to let me split the screen or not. No, I guess you guys are not going to see me, but you need to see what's important. Okay, guys, here it is. And if you're having trouble reading, I tell you what, I'm going to turn off the comments for just a second. Okay, I can still see it in the back room. But let's turn this off so we can read this. Press lead, federal lawsuit exposes 30-year and technically plus state-sponsored child trafficking and Title IV constitutional fraud. To the news desk. Now, this is something that you, with this here, this is the body of your email. Okay, you put something before this and say, "Hi, my name's so-and-so. I'm here to let you know about a national press release that has been done." And then you can copy and paste, like I said, the link that goes to those constitutional questions. It's not going to let me do it here. It's easier for just tell you guys, go to the Facebook page on after the show on Facebook for Gunning for CPS. I will put this letter in here. I will put it in the body through there, and then you're going to have the link at the bottom that's going to go to, or actually it's in between because I'm working on it here a little bit at a time. But let's go through this. I basically say, hey, this is who I am. I'm identifying. I'm letting you know there's a court filing, and it's unfolding in Tennessee. Now, look, it has, if you look here, look, 2 case numbers. Now, a lot of people say, Gunner, why 2 case numbers? Because I filed in 2025 and I got mass retaliation. Like they came after me and my former co-plaintiff very hard. I mean, broke the law there. Now, it will eventually come up as we get discovery and a few other things. Those people will be added, and they said, well, Gunner, how can you do that? Because they put my name in it. And they accused me of stuff that never happened, and I was never called into court at all to even defend myself. So then I filed again in 2026, only this time, in a way I picked up where I left off, but there's a way to join on the federal, excuse me, cover sheet, the cover sheet that you can tie previous cases together. That's what I did. They brought back to life, even though you guys will look up the 2025 case and it says dismissed. It is not dismissed. It is very much alive. They have just not updated, once again, PACER. Now, all this stuff I'm showing you that has been filed and everything else is on the PACER website. Those are the case numbers. So if you guys got your pen and paper you're writing down, I want to look at it, but I need to explain that because they went through it again with one of the orders. If you guys look through there and look at it and go, well, I've dismissed part of this and part of this. That's what we're going after a lot in number 2. So the core hook is saying, look, for decades, the state family courts have been prosecuting criminal child abuse charges in civil venues. In other words, if you look at all your paperwork, they actually use a state criminal code, say under child abuse and neglect. Well, if there's no conviction, this is the state. In other words, you can't do one without the other. That's what limits the state. In other words, you can't go after me civilly if there's no criminal conviction. It doesn't work like that, especially for the state. Individuals, it's a little bit different. Once again, sorry for the cough. Cardiac cough, beautiful thing. And right here, abuse charges in civil venues, completely bypassing the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th Amendment under Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 in the 10th Amendment. The state administrative courts possess 0 constitutional jurisdiction to hear these cases. Oh, yeah. Because they lack jurisdiction, every ruling, every child removal, every termination of parents' rights issued by these courts for the last 30 years, and this includes all 50 states, is legally null and void. The state of Tennessee has used these fabricated judgments to defraud the United States Treasury out of billions in Title IV federal bounty funds. This is not a child welfare system. It's monetized state-sponsored child trafficking that incentivizes the kidnapping of children to secure federal funding, operating with the same impunity as elite underground trafficking rings, but shielded by judges in black robes. When this jurisdictional void is exposed, all these children must legally come home, and the modern foster care system collapses. I have just formally served the U.S. Attorney and the Tennessee Attorney General under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. That's what this term over here means, right here. Challenging the constitutionality of these statutes. What do you mean, Gunner? Oh, yeah. We go after the legislators that even wrote the statutes and codes that they never had jurisdiction for, because it's supposed to be in federal court, so it's supposed to meet the federal standard. I'm providing you with the full legal payload currently sitting on the federal docket, which breaks, excuse me again, this multi-agency RICO enterprise down across 8 master constitutional questions. Number 1, proof that state courts lacked Article 3 jurisdiction, rendering decades of family separations void ab initio. What does that mean? Void ab initio. Void from the beginning, as though it never happened. In other words, you got to wipe out everything. Number 2, now this has been across the board, everybody, and you need to read number 2 and go into details, okay? You need to read this, because one of the things I did with this question was, see, Clarence Thomas said we screwed up when we gave judicial immunity. Well, number 1, I used some of that, but then I added a little twist of lemon to it, if you will. And I says, wait a minute. These state administrative law judges are not judges under the Constitution. Well, they weren't called administrative law judges till the 70s. So if you're going to say constitutionally judges, these judges don't qualify, these state administrative law judges, because it wasn't there upon the initial beginning. And on top of it, they're not judges because they don't answer to the president. Because an Article 3 judge answers directly to the president. Who does state, and this is what a lot of you guys don't understand, who does state administrative law judges answer to? Your governor. Uh-oh. So you're going after the gut. Hey, it's a house of cards. It's dominoes. You knock one down, they all come falling down. But we use this and we expect them to do, because the Chevron doctrine has been suspended, they're going to go with the higher court ruling, which gives us, once again, we already have the golden ticket to go to the Supreme Court. We want to get these out of the way, and we want a lower court ruling, which is what we're pressing the judge to do is, excuse me. Now, constitutional question number 2, also, you'll see it where it says Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 26 Delta, number 1. The judge actually violated, because without the defendants asking for judicial immunity, the judge actually just went ahead and gave it to him in a recent ruling. Well, there are 3 other divisions. Once again, everything, my division that I'm in is Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. And 3 other divisions have already ruled on what was done as being unconstitutional. In other words, you weren't supposed to do it. I'm glad you did it. You just gave me the golden ticket. But now with this, I'm asking the court, which is proper procedure, hey, I think you made a mistake. Now, from there, you have the option to make a complaint on the judge, ask the judge to be removed and this and that, or you can leave it there. And people say, well, I don't understand why you would do it there. But I says, well, once again, that deals with strategy. Why? Because if you don't get the judge in trouble and the judge is actually doing what you wanted it to do, you're playing the courts. Remember, this is a game. It's like a game of chess. So play the game better than they do. Because, you know, like Tiff says on Tiff and the Punisher, the first one to the courthouse wins. You just got to do it right. Now, this deals with judicial immunity. That's number 2. And it also deals with some of the things that are in there. But you need to read that real good to understand what's going on and how bad this is. And What this shows with these constitutional questions is that all 50 states are actively involved in treason against the people of their state and against the United States government. This is the dark underbelly, or the shadow government that they've been talking about, fully exposed. And it's not just in the federal, it's in the states. Guys, that's the whole point. That's what this exposes. Number 3, this is stuff they have to answer. How the state uses that central registry, the abuse registry, this and that, and you don't even get a hearing before a jury or anything else. You get a pre-trial guilty verdict. In other words, they already find you substantiated before you even have trial, which is the same thing that happened in mine. Wait a minute, I didn't even have a trial. But then the court had to hold it up. And then, like I said, with my particular case, the judge that was in this thing and the magistrate before, I've got them hung. I mean, they're in deep shit because I've got everything. I came with receipts, and no, it's not a joke. But I also wrote my complaint like a federal criminal complaint. So you guys that are filing in, civil court, go look at a federal criminal complaint and look at the structure, because it's the highest structure. And if you do that anyway, it's going to be easier for the Department of Justice when they go after criminal charges to read. So you got to think ahead. Somebody moves ahead. So now, and we're going to deal with that. You can't do this. Hey, you're destroying lives without due process or this, and this happens all the time. Let alone that registry. That registry is unconstitutional, and there's a lot of things about that, what's in that registry, that's unconstitutional. Trust me, I've done my research on it. And those are things that'll come out during court. Yes, even to the point I can prove that the state of Tennessee and other states, including Kentucky, will eventually be added to this because of what happened of that retaliation, to turn around and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt they are a national security threat. And you ain't going to believe what's going to come out during trial. It gets worse than this. Treason, high treason, is what they've been doing. That's why they fear me, because I know too much. That's why it's on the record. That's why it's here. And press, what are you going to do? You can't threaten a dead man or a dead man walking. Number 4, you're going to love this. Third-party consent fraud. How can state agents bypass property rights? In other words, come knock on your door and ask questions and do this and do that. And let alone the state of our country where divorce is so high that it doesn't cover husband and wife, because if one still had it as a premarital asset or was part of their previous divorce, then it becomes the state has to prove that the other person, or the person you're married to, whose name's not on the title or on the bill for your home, they have to prove that they put in money to make those payments. Good luck, because they'd have to subpoena stuff, and they can't do that once again. But they can get to the court of record. They can get over to the registry, right, for property at the county. It's public record. Who owns that? See, there's the difference. And that's why those two cases, White versus Pierce County and Doe versus Heck, says you must have a warrant. Why? Because you never know. You never know who the thing. And why does that mean a difference? Because here's why this makes a difference. Say you rent or lease a place, right? You have Fourth Amendment rights, but the owner to the property also has Fourth Amendment rights. That's why a warrant is mandatory. They just can't give permission. And here's the reason that why. Because a landlord can't give permission for you to go in, because you got to overcome two thresholds, the property owner and the occupant. That's what White versus Pierce County was doing. Doe versus Heck means, see all those videos you guys record? Hey, if the CPS shows up at the house and they're asking a bunch, well, we've got questions, we've got this. The first question that comes out of their mouth, they just violated the Constitution. What do you mean? Were they standing on your curtilage? What is curtilage, Gunner? Well, curtilage, as defined by the Supreme Court, is anything outside your home up to that line or that threshold that goes to the easement, which is usually 6 feet off the road. They're standing in your yard or away from your door and they think, well, I'm not on the porch on that. Nope, you're still on the curtilage and you're asking questions. Well, the Supreme Court in Doe versus Heck says that asking questions on private property is a form of seizure under the Fourth Amendment. This is why you guys bring this stuff up of going, wait a minute, there's a constitutional right. So why? I've got them on film. You see them asking questions? Well, they're allowed to do that. Not according to Doe versus Heck and White versus Pierce County. One, you got to have a warrant. Two, as soon as you ask me a question on private property, whether the cops were there or not, the first person to ask a question has violated the Fourth Amendment. No, the order, here's the other thing. We deal with that too. And I'm looking at the comments. So in order to access, number one, oh, we deal with that. We deal with that too. Hold on, we're getting there. Once again, it also deals within that. And that's why I'm telling you guys to read it. These judges, if they don't have jurisdiction to hear the case, do you guys realize an Article 3 judge is required to give an order or a warrant? An Article 1 judge can't do that, which means a family court judge that has been writing these orders to do that has violated the Fourth Amendment with their judicial orders in their official capacity, which is why we went after them in Constitutional Question 2. You realize they're writing orders that violate the Fourth Amendment and they don't have jurisdiction nor the power to allow anybody in the fucking house? Uh-oh, you've been busted. And you know where you find the evidence? It's all on the court record. And if it's happened to you, right there, here it is. Here's the judge's order, says that they can come in and do this and that. You can now use that as an exhibit against the state actors. You don't have the jurisdiction. Are you not an Article 1 judge? See, we went through all these things and specifically asked the questions a certain way. Understand, some of these are 30 pages long. They're briefs. They're memorandums of law that go with these constitutional questions. You got to read them because there's a ton of meat and potatoes in there. With all the trimmings, it's a 6-course meal. I covered everything, man. Everything when I wrote these up. We made sure all the things you guys are dealing with, you can now refer. Once these are answered, you can bring these into a state court or anything and go, here, the Supreme Court or the federal court answered this question. Here's the answers to the questions. You violated the Constitution when you came in. That's a Rule 60, guys, in your state. Overturn my case and return my children immediately. They answer constitutional question number 1. You never had jurisdiction. Hey, it's been answered by the federal court. Where the hell are my kids? This is where I'm telling you guys, this is going to end up to where you're going to have a revolution stand up, because for over 30 years in all 50 states, that comes back. Those cases are null and void as though they never existed. That means, I was TPR'd or my kid's here and there. You go down there and you can go down there in any way you see fit under your constitutional rights and demand your children and show them this is what the federal court has issued. You never had jurisdiction to issue those orders. And trust me, that's why you notify the state attorney general and the U.S. attorney general, because once they get these questions, they will be notifying all attorney generals in all other 49 states. You must return all the children. And now, here's the part that they're going to hate. Every single one of you guys for over 30 years that this has happened to, and those courts go in there, and go get your court records before they start destroying them. I'm telling you now, go get a copy of those. You have a legal right to those, even if it's 20-something years old. And matter of fact, Darren's in the back room here, and he'll tell me, I think he's eating a sandwich. I'm messing him up. I think he's eating a snack back there. But Darren, pop in here. I mean, that's 100% correct, is it not? When you get a chance, pop in here. Go ahead, chew and swallow. Don't rush it. Get you something to drink. I don't want you to choke and pass out. Next thing I'm seeing in the camera is the universal choking code. But and Darren's here. He's in law school too, and he'll tell you these things are tight. Now, you're talking about now, we've dealt with now Fourth Amendment. Now let's go to number 5. Uncounseled interrogations. Now, this one deals with, I'm going to read what it says, the systematic stripping of child's right to legal counsel during forensic interviews to manufacture state evidence. What does this mean? This means if your child is born, and the courts have already ruled on this, and we know this, that a child has constitutional rights protection when they're born. We know this is true, this is, once again, this is a trick question. If that's true, and CPS comes in to do an investigation on child abuse or neglect, which is a criminal thing, if that child was questioned and you obtain that evidence by not having counsel there, that is fruit from a poisonous tree, because you violated the child's constitutional rights because they're unable to waive them. Oh, by the way, everybody says, well, GALs and this and that. Oh, no, we dealt with that too. Because that's a conflict of interest, because you can't be the protector of rights and the interrogator for a possible criminal investigation, because then now if CPS does this and questions the child and there's not an attorney there because the child has rights and the child doesn't know to do this, we have to look out for the children. This is what we call true protection of the children and their constitutional rights. And we deal with, once again, within some of these things here too, of you can't wear both hats. It's a conflict of interest. And the court's going to agree. Okay, well, Ronnie, if you're going into that, what Ronnie's talking about here, and I know you guys can't see, he said, what if one state goes to another state with no papers and rips a newborn from a mother? They have to file and follow what's called the UCCJEA by federal law. There you go. The order of access wasn't a warrant. They technically came on my private, took my, no, they did not have the authority to do that. Not when I'm for, why? Because you have a right, read the Fourth Amendment. You have a right to be secure in persons. That includes your children, yourself, and everything else, papers, so on and so forth, everything. This is why it's, and the Fourth Amendment is the most documented amendment that is constantly being challenged, and the Supreme Court and the federal courts have all upheld the Fourth Amendment. They don't compromise. Matter of fact, it's gotten even more defined because people have tried to find the loopholes and they've shut them down. Now we've dealt with the interrogation, everything. Like I said, go read what we've put in these things, is what I'm telling you. Meat and potatoes. Number 6. The sheriff assertion. How local law enforcement abandons their constitutional oath, actively shielding the family cartel. When they weaponize CPS, they extremely violated the Constitution, because you and I elect our sheriff and to do certain duties. The state cannot come in and steal those responsibilities or those powers we have given to the sheriff. Let me clarify. You cannot take, the state does not have the power to take powers away of our vote. And there is something called the guaranteed part of the Constitution clause. This is now not acting in good faith. It means the state itself has used their powers, whether it's the governor or anything else, because it was acceptable, with mass corruption that we didn't realize was going on in the 80s, 90s, and everything else, that it was all masqueraded. A lot of it was weaponized during the Clinton administration. This is going to call them all out, but this is going to hang around Clinton and everything else. There's a possibility they'll connect this with Clinton. You should have never ordered this, because then they weaponized them. And when they did that, and they gave the investigations over to CPS, and they'll tell you, the state come in and told me all cases that, there was a member that came out, we're going to subpoena that. We know it exists. We know where it's at. We've seen it. Is where they took it away from the sheriffs. Why didn't those sheriffs do their duty as duly elected sheriff and come in and arrest them for even doing that? They should have. The sheriffs should have gotten together in your state from every county and went either to the governor or CPS or whoever was writing this stuff and sent it down and put them in handcuffs for treason. Because you're bypassing what we the people have elected. It's like electing somebody thinking we've elected the people, and instead a secret group that just the state approves of, your state. This is too much power for the state, that they're bypassing your vote. It's a criminal act. It blows the whistle on all of it. Now, next one, 7. Best interest masquerade. In other words, they come in under the best interest. The best interest. Which is stronger? We're asking the court. The best interest of the child? Or Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution, that is the supremacy clause that says it's above this? We know what their answer is going to be. Well, if that's true, once again, you're surpassing the Constitution by doing this best interest. And we go into details. Oh, we came. This is going to be shared on the Facebook page, Gunning for CPS, the same as this show, and I'll probably do a video for TikTok. If you come in a little bit late, yes, we will be putting this in. Sovereign citizen stuff 5. Don't do it. Hold on. I got you covered on that. How are you going to argue with a member of the panel of SCOTUS? Neil Gorsuch actually published a book and has had several different interviews that explicitly says that we, the people, are the true sovereigns. So I'm quoting sitting members of Congress. No, this is not a sovereign citizen. This is saying a member of SCOTUS acknowledges that we, the people, are the only original and true sovereigns. That's a sitting member of the Supreme Court. And they're quoted in this. Like I said, go read it. So this is dismantling everything that they've learned or the states have taught them. Oh, here we go with the sovereign. Oh, no. If we aren't the true sovereign, then you're telling me a sitting member of SCOTUS, the highest court in the land that interprets the Constitution, has confirmed we, the people, are the only true sovereigns. And it's right there in his book. And there's several other interviews where he said the same thing, as well as other members of SCOTUS. You going to argue with them? Because guess who answers this question? The Supreme Court. Possibly sitting Chief Justice over the Supreme Court, because of this national security interest that we may be able to escalate this to. So a sitting member of SCOTUS will have to answer this. And I'm quoting his buddies that are sitting on the Supreme Court. And I've used the stuff that Clarence Thomas has said we screwed up with the judicial immunity and some of the other things. They wrote us a map. See, a lot of you guys go out there and say, well, this got denied, that got denied in my case, or this got shaved, or that got shaved. You understand that they're actually telling you how to correct it? Instead of looking at, well, I got denied or I got kicked out. You're not reading it right. You're once again, you've got that taste of the state in your mouth, and you're in a whole different court. They're going to tell you how to fix it and resubmit it. Or there's certain rules you can engage in stuff, which is what I've done, and saying, hey, wait a minute, according to the rules of federal civil procedure, you weren't supposed to do that. This is why you got to know and you got to dig in there. Okay, number 8. Oh, you guys are going to love this one. The Bar Association monopoly. If I'm calling all this out, and yes, I went to look for an attorney, a federal one, because you can look for them nationally. They would not touch this case with a 10-foot pole because it was nuclear, and it would put a bad taste in any other case they ever heard. In other words, this would be a career high for them, and they could never get past. But the courts would look at that person that would take on this case if they fight it this way. They would never, ever, ever be able to to go through with this because it's that bad. Why didn't they call out this thing knowing these courts said, constitutional question number one, all these people have a license. They've been to the bar. They've been to law school. They've been this. They have an oath. How did they miss question one? Because it made them money. And if they stood up, they would be retaliated against so bad that any courtroom they would ever walk into, that the judge or magistrate would have such a bad taste in their mouth because of what they exposed. It shuts down this shuts down CPS and abolishes them under the fact of they're operating unconstitutionally and illegally and been stealing that Title IV money and getting that federal money and RICO and how they all work together. We know about the MOUs. We know about this. We know about it's all in each one of those filings. And when you read them for yourselves, it's going to blow your mind. Now, yes, Gardner. Yeah, Gardner was on. He's on the Supreme Court. He sits on there. What you guys don't understand is the Chief Justice for the Supreme Court. There's one of the members of SCOTUS that is set aside and is not in the panel. They elect their own. Who's going to do it for so many years? They are over the Supreme Court to do like de novo reviews and some of these other things and this and that you meet the standard that it doesn't go to SCOTUS. It has to go to the Chief Justice because you're asking a specific thing or it has to meet a certain criteria. We meet that criteria with these questions and the other things that have happened so far in the case. That's why it's completely different. RBG was on the Supreme Court too. Which one are you referring to? Because I'm sorry, it's been a little crazy. This is not the same thing as going to SCOTUS when you're going to the Chief Justice. Okay, the Chief Justice will see more cases than the SCOTUS panel that everybody refers to as, once again, the Supreme Court is what they do, because technically the Supreme Court is made up of the Chief Justice. It's the Court of Appeals, and they also section which these cases should be heard under, including cases for ambassadors and or this and that. Now, members of SCOTUS will overhear some of those different cases, sometimes, but like I said, or a Supreme Court justice will hear it. Like I said, you got to look at the structure. It's not the same as the state. You have to unlearn everything you went through in the state and relearn because yes, it's supposed to mimic it, but the states have muddied the waters and confused everybody so bad, whereas the federal courts are a lot easier to understand. Now, what this is talking about is making people fight pro se, which all of you guys are running into. I want to sue them. That's why they're not touching this. And it stops them. But at the same time, it calls them out of saying, you're hiding these crimes and your first oath is to the Constitution, even to the point you guys have heard a lot that says, well, their first duty is to the court and this and that. That is a secondary document that they're referring to, and that is in that particular constitutional question. Read it for yourself, and there's tons of information in there. But once again, this goes down here. It says I've attached the thing. That's the link. This is a 50-state issue. It's a legal hammer. It's dropping here in Tennessee first, which it's filed. It's on the Pacer link. It's been filed. And it's just saying, hey, here I'm available, for, national interviews, this and that. It's got my information. Please don't call me. But this has one thing here. Here's my email. Here's the YouTube page for the show that you're watching right now. Go back and look at all these other things. Do your research in. Once again, I'm not wrong. Like I said, that's the issue and the thing I'm constantly hearing of saying, well, he's not wrong. That's what scares the shit out of them. Because you get to the right place and the right everything else, there it is. So we're going to take the second part. Now that you guys have got that at the end of the show, yes, I will be putting it out there on Facebook. If you do not follow the page, the show's page, Gunning for the number 4 CPS on Facebook, share the shit out of it. It has everything in there, but it blows the whistle. Give it to your congressman. Give it to your state people. Give it to your judges, everything. Hey, do you realize this is going on? And hopefully Darren's got done eating in here where we can have some interaction here soon and get in here. But tonight, I think he's working on also to give us a link here where you guys can join us and talk about these constitutional questions a little bit. And what you guys can do. Like I said, this is where we the people come together. This is the ants movie. This is where the grasshoppers have now been put on notice. We outnumber them, and we're the ones that give power. So now what are you going to do? Because now these questions, they are nuclear. And once they're answered, they're effective, which means now the DOJ is going to have to come in and go, uh-oh, now we have to investigate these crimes. Whatever is this, they will appear here. I don't know where. Oh, there he goes, popping back in. But I'm sure if he gets a chance here, put that up on the screen. We'll do the link. I think it's like a QR code or something like that. You guys can scan and actually join. I mean, we want this to go all 50 states. We want people to know what the hell's going on because, like I said, this is scary. Because a lot of people don't understand how bad their state is, what they're doing. And like I said, they're being called out. And that's the thing that they don't like is once this is exposed, it's like sending a bullet down range. You can't take it back. And once they answer these things, they're going to say whether or not it's constitutional, not constitutional, and they're going to go through it. And the states are not going to like this, especially with number one, because it's clear. Uh-oh. Now you've got criminal acts. That's why my case has whistleblower. It has False Claims Act on there and a bunch of other things. And we had to attack this because of, once again, the judge made a few decisions that were not really questionable. I expected them. But we also had a response of saying, thanks. You now just open the door to a bunch more constitutional questions. Now what are you going to do? Because now I'm asking about the constitutionality of what was done, what was said, and this and that, let alone saying, I think one of them was, well, for the False Claims Act, you got to have an attorney. How? When the bar is completely corrupt. And I couldn't find one that would even touch this case because of this. So, yeah, that's huge. And that's what scares the shit out of them because, like I say, I'm not wrong. And when you read these things, you're going to turn around and you're going to go, oh, shit, Gunner, I didn't realize it was that bad. Yeah, all 50 states, whether they know it or not, Republican, Democrat, or they're just playing stupid, they're fully aware of it. Why? Because they're making millions and billions of dollars every single year. You guys can pull the numbers from your states, let alone 83% of the cases that they hear they're never supposed to be involved in. That was a study done by their own internal stuff. What the hell? You mean I wasn't supposed to do this? No, you were never even supposed to hear the case. Do you realize how much this is going to stop child trafficking? Where are you going to get the kids from? You're going to have to go back to the old school way of just grabbing a van and enticing a kid or some shit like that. There's no more state sponsored. And here's the other thing. Everybody that's involved in this, from the CPS workers to this, the CPS, just the basic caseworkers, social workers, investigators, leads, everything else, all the way up the damn ladder, including the judges, the magistrates, anybody that's involved that's touching any of this stuff has now committed a criminal act. And what we're calling out is treason. And that's what scares them because we ain't wrong. We ain't wrong. And that scares them to death. And that's why, like I said, I've already known, I know there's been a hands-off order on me. Don't go near him. Everybody says, well, aren't you worried about this? Aren't you worried about this? Aren't you worried about this, that? No. So I'm going to do a few corrections. Like I said, there's a few things I have to do, but I'm going to put this on Gunning for CPS. I have to do some little tweaks because there's an override, if you will, like when you copy and paste certain things. So it protects it, but I'll have to do some corrections. But let's put the comments back up. And Darren, when you're ready, man, just jump on in here, man. There it is. So guys, yeah, this goes in and this can use, like I said, in your stuff. So right there's the thing right there, guys. See it? Hit that QR code right now. Jump in the back room, type in the little private thing, what your name is and everything else. Go through there. This turns around and blows the doors and exposes the whole system just with these constitutional questions. The link's on the screen. If you see the QR code, I believe you guys can see it. It says live now, want to tell your story, hit the QR code. So scan that with your little phone or whatever, your QR code. If you're looking on your laptop, use your phone, hit that. It'll bring you to the back room. Just like I said, go in the private chat, just give your name and what state you're from. Hopefully this has worked. This is something new that we're playing with. I believe Tiff and the Punisher Show has played with this a little bit, and it's worked for them. So scan that QR code right now and jump in here if you want to. Well, yeah, exactly. You're not in the correct court. And like I said, when they say, you got to understand, guys, you got a case going on right now. This can stop everything of going, hey, do you realize here's the case and this and this and that, and give a copy of what we've done of just that national press release. And then, here's the link. And if you want to copy and paste it before you print it and turn it in as evidence on your case of going, hey, did you notice this is going on and that you're not supposed to move? Because you don't think that every state attorney general doesn't know about this? Oh, they know fully well what's going on, and they're scared to death. This shuts down everything, calls them in, and now they must be held accountable. Once again, you get the first one answered. This question's been answered. You never had jurisdiction for any of this shit. Where's my fucking kid? Now, that's the part right there that they're scared of, because if that's true and it goes on for over 30 years, that's a lot of people. But it also opens up every single state to multiple hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of lawsuits, and you'll wear their insurance and their bonds and everything out, and you're going to call them out. And then when you do it, then you send it to the DOJ. I want to press criminal charges. Here's the thing, and this, that. Now they have to pay attention. And why do you think Trump took and opened a fraud division in every single state? Oh, wait. Hi, how you doing? Well, Darren, come in here. I don't know if we're going to get anybody that's going to join us tonight, but why don't you jump in here? They had to email me a link to give to my friends about losing our kids. Okay, so I'll tell you what, this is what I'm going to do. I guess since we're having trouble, damn, I wish it wasn't doing that. So let me do this, and I can fix this. Let's go to copy. How about this? I'm going to give you guys now you can go find Gunning for CPS on Facebook right now, live. Let me copy the link, and I'm going to actually on, once again, page, so you guys can find it now. And come on, keep posting. So to join us live for the next little bit, and we're going to do a little bit of an extended show tonight. It's posting right now. Look at, go to the Facebook page, go to the Gunning for CPS. Yes, it's our show. It's uploading now. Why it takes forever to do one little link. Go figure. Come on. Crazy thing. But Darren, what do you think about all this and the things that we're covering in these questions? We kind of dropped the nuclear bomb on them, didn't we?
Well, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable people once they see these things, that's for sure. Be a little bit nervous for certain. The thing is going to be, what's those judges going to say? What is that judge going to say when he gets those questions? How is he going to answer? Is he going to answer it right? Is he going to answer it proper? He kind of has to, right? The questions are there. We all know what the answers are. It's not rocket science. We all know what the answers are. Is the judge going to do the right thing? Well,
that's where I think a lot of people don't understand. You're going to have to look. Let me see if this will, I don't know why I didn't do it. Let me see if it'll do it now. No, come here. Paste. There it is. I'm going to try it again. Okay, post, damn it.
Yeah, I think they're doing a lot of things to us tonight to make sure that this message doesn't get out the way it's supposed to.
There it is. Okay, it is up. It says just now on there, so you can click on that link. It'll bring you to the back room, and then have a combo through here on this other stuff. From magistrate's decision so long that last September, actual judge recused himself. Listen, that's where they drag these out. This is something I think Connie Reguli was dealing with on one of her podcasts too, of how these state cases where they drag them out for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and this and that, and just constantly do this because they keep dragging out to get more money. They're dragging it out for that reason, because it's more Title IV funds that they can falsify. But check that out here. It's up on Facebook on the page. If you guys come in the back room, we'll see you pop up through here with any questions of anything you've come through here. And then, like I said, I will get that out to you guys as soon as the show's over. I'm going to have to go through and redo a few things anyway, because we had to put the link up. So it's there. If you got, we've got somebody here in the background. Brandy
There you go.
is there.
Yeah.
Brandy, what do you got going here? Let's go ahead and bring her out, Darren. I'll let you do the what do you call it, production thing. Hello, Miss Brandy.
Hi, how are you?
Brandy?
So what's your thoughts on these constitutional questions going before the court?
Hopefully it can get my kids back.
Constitutional question number 1 is pretty clear, which means they would have to do void ab initio. And like we read off, even TPR, even this, even that, all those adoptions, those everything else now have to be recalled.
Good.
Yeah.
Go read
Void ab
it. Go
initio,
read the
man.
10th Amendment.
That's
I
the
mean,
thing
Do
about
I
void
need to
ab
take-
initio, Gunner. Anything that comes from anything, from the point that you go back to, anything that came from that is all null and void. So whether you use void ab initio from your TPR, from your removal, wherever that void ab initio goes to, all the way back.
Yep.
Do I get to take that to the federal court, or can I just file some stuff?
No,
in
once
regular?
this decision is made, all you have to do is go, this is the thing, and they'll put it on the record. That's why it has the case numbers in the release. You can go right on there, and you guys just keep following us and say when we've got those answers and we get the answer we're looking for. Like I said, this federal court judge, once again, this is division court I'm in. Once again, I have the opportunity. You have to give them a chance to answer it. You have to get a chance for the other side to write a brief to challenge it. But we're already past. I believe we're already past that window. I believe it's 60 days for constitutional question number 1. It's not even been challenged yet, and they were
How long do you
notified.
think how long do you think that's going to take?
Once again, you have to follow the rules of civil procedure, federal civil procedure. So you've got 60 days for them to respond. And then I think the judge has another 30 to 60 days to actually issue an order on those things. Now, we've asked for them to expedite some of these things because, regardless of what it is, the court still has to answer it. And then if we don't like the answer or if it's not what we do, guess what? There's the golden ticket. But what the judge has already done, like we talked about earlier, is he already ruled giving them immunity. Well, you can't sue them in their official capacity. Bullshit. I can't sue the state in official capacity. Why? They're committing treason.
Right.
You're not dealing with it. So, here they never had jurisdiction, and they've had a whole case. They've done this, and this gives them no wiggle room. So even if they try to survive, just answering these questions, understand they're going to withhold, and part of it is withholding all federal funds until they become compliant, and they'll issue a cease and desist. You have to. That's why you notify the U.S. Attorney's Office, because they'll have to notify all 49 other states, which a lot of them already know. I had somebody that was actually out of Oklahoma, another person out of Arizona, another person out of Nevada saying, hey, listen, man, the Attorney General's office already knows what you filed. I say, wait till they see the other 7 that just got filed. So now what are you going to do? Your hands are tied. You have to answer the question before you can proceed in my case, and I'm entitled to a fair trial. So,
Yeah.
This just isn't, like I said, basically what they want you to do, and this is how the game's played. They'll break the law. You'll take them to federal civil court. They'll shave stuff down to where you hardly get anything unless you've just got a really, really bad case, which mine is already. And then they'll just limit you. But then you don't go after the powers that be that empower these people. Well, I did. And I'm basically saying you're unconstitutional. You never should have done this from the beginning. You never had the jurisdiction. You never had the power. And once everything else keeps going, because once this ball gets rolling, then they have to do individual investigations and see, how many, I don't know, Darren, what's about the average that a judge hears a year in one courtroom? How many cases do you figure on average? I mean, they kick out what,
I think the
3
numbers,
a day?
I think it's like 400 to 600. I think it's 400 to 600 cases, right? I think it's something along those lines. In that
Yeah,
area,
I mean,
it's 400 to 600.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And let alone metropolitan areas like Detroit, in other states like or Chicago or Nashville or Memphis, the big cities, they've got like what, something like 20 or 30 damn judges to hear this shit in multiple counties. That's all of them. But at the same time, where you think the state's going to take all the money for all that stuff? No, they'll go after them on their individual capacity. They will seize all their assets. That's the only way this works. And then they're going to file on their insurance. But the issue is, if I go first, okay, on just what I've got or anything else, then the federal government comes in and says, wait a minute, you robbed us of that money. You got to repay all that because you defrauded the federal government. Then the federal government brings a case. Oh, you got to pay us back all this money for 30 years, but it's going to take an event. I probably won't see the extent of the full investigation and the full impact of this in my lifetime because it's going to go on for a long time. I mean, that's just the honest truth, because they're going to have to investigate every single judge, every single CPS. I mean, but it's going to have to shut down. But the state, here's the other thing you guys don't realize. You guys realize your state can't collect taxes if it was taking and operating unconstitutionally, including your property tax, your sales tax, your everything. That means
it's all about money.
Well, once again, now you make it to where they can't insure or operate this program. It also means that every sheriff and their deputies and everything across the country, because they failed to go and arrest them, is now called dereliction of duty. All have to be replaced. All the state legislators that passed law or statutes and codes and this and that to weaponize them and allow them to do it, guess what? Everybody that voted on it and said yes and this and that, guess what? You're now complicit in those crimes as well as all the other crimes. Everybody says, what does this mean? Could this mean martial law? Yeah. It could mean the federalized of every single state of coming through and all the state shit gone. How are we going to operate, Gunner? How's this going to? Oh, we'll survive.
Brandy,
because
what do you
the
see?
People are resilient.
Brandy, what do you see in those questions that you think would be the way that you would need to answer something? What are in those questions that you see would help you in your case?
The no jurisdiction thing, I think, would definitely help. Because I'm pretty sure that the judge that ordered the removal of my children was an Article 1 judge, not an Article 3.
Okay. So
it came from a county judge, so I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm going to have to look into it to find out what kind of judge
If it was a family court judge, it's an Article 1.
Okay, yeah, it was a family court
civil.
judge.
Anything civil is Article 1.
So
I agree with.
Oh, go ahead, Brandy.
Sorry. You were saying earlier about how they can't be interrogators and like in the best interest of the child. They've done that numerous times in my case.
All the time. Yes.
It's all I hear. It's best interest of the child. Like I even asked my CYS caseworkers, because I'm in Pennsylvania. I even asked them how it's possible that they can pay someone else to take care of my children instead of helping me in the situation that I'm in right now.
Right.
and they had no answer.
Well, and we've come to find out on several different people that have reached out for those what used to be voluntary programs or voluntary assistance. This that the first thing that we're hearing is there's no funding. Where's the money? Because they're supposed, if you're homeless, they're supposed to help you look for a place to live. If you're
Yep.
without a job, they're supposed to help you find a job. If
Yep.
you need resources or this and that, they are to help you keep your family together. Is the way they were originally designed for those that
Yeah.
struggle. And when they weaponized them, it's completely different. But once again, we're talking not about your rights, my rights. The question that you're talking about specifically there is about child's rights. Because children have constitutional rights too, which we also address CPS going into the school and going into the hospitals and questioning people or doing this or an investigation and things without the Fourth Amendment and violating the Fourth Amendment of, hey, your hospital room's covered under the Fourth Amendment. Did you have a warrant to get those medical results? No, but they have to do. Well, then that nurse or whoever or doctor that reported it, they violated HIPAA.
Yeah.
You're looking at criminal charges. They need to be taken out. This is where we start to make the noise. Listen, we have got traction. This case puts everything in high gear, but it also, especially the very first question, should bother every American across this country. Because your state, it proves that every state, all 50 states have turned on their people for a dollar amount.
Yep.
And the Constitution's clear. The 10th Amendment says the states can, that's the amendment that gives the states power, okay? It says you are delegated these powers, but there's an exception that a lot of people miss. Except those powers delegated to the federal government. Well, what does Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 say about original jurisdiction and the Supreme Court? All cases. And yes, we even covered, well, they've interpreted it state by state. That's not what it says. And we address that too. That's not what it says. Then we brought in the doctrine of the superiority of the text. How do we read the Constitution according to SCOTUS? It says what it means what it says. So when it says all cases, it's not CPS or we'll say in my particular case, the Tennessee Department of Children and Family Services. Is that a state agency? Yes, it is. That means we're supposed to be in the Supreme Court or the federal court. But everybody knows none of those cases would have even when they tried to file it and they sifted it, would have never made it past that. That, like I say, when you read these constitutional and you read actually what I wrote in the drive, and these are the memorandums of law and everything, there is so much meat and potatoes to where you're going to look at it and you're going to go, damn, I didn't know that. Damn, I didn't know our founders did this and this and that or said that here. Oh, wait, it says this in the Federalist Papers, which it also, the SCOTUS turns around and says you must use the Federalist Papers, you must use the Declaration of Independence, and you must take in and use the Constitution and use these all as a whole. And when you don't, that's a problem. Well, Brandy, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for being with us. And like I said, look at that stuff here. Darren, I believe we've got somebody else back there. We've got Jen in the back room. Let's bring her in.
Yeah.
Well, let's remove that QR code thing right there, Darren. I think they're going off of going off the Facebook link rather than they are that thing. Hello, Jen.
Hi.
What state are you calling from, Jen?
Welcome to the show.
I'm in California.
Oh, old Newsom Gruesome.
Yes, Jen. I remember Jen. Jen, how have you been? Anything new with your case?
So what do you
have
think
anything new?
Constitutional questions and how they affect you? And I mean, what surprises you?
It's like doubling up. Should I exit out of the Facebook? I asked exit out of Facebook.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Come off the Facebook and then you're here live.
Okay, now it's not doubling up. Okay.
There you go.
It's hot here.
It's hot, and it's damn
Yeah.
hot. Like Robin Williams used to say, "What do you mean, fool? It's hot and it's wet. It's wet. It's
Well,
hot."
yeah.
Although there is probably dry and hot.
Probably burning.
I'm excited you're doing this, Gunner. It's good. It's very good. And I'd like to
Well,
help because in California, there's a lot of families that I know they just taking kids left and right, and
they know
No.
what's coming down the pipe. They're trying to get as many as they can, and watch how many kids they disappear once this all comes down. We can't find them.
yeah, they had taken my son and they put him in Nevada, and then he with his dad in Nevada, and then Nevada he they put him in jail for 10 months and wouldn't let me talk to them, and I didn't lose my rights or anything, but it's like they knew that they didn't want him to talk to me, because they knew that I would, he didn't hurt his grandma like they said, and they pretty much, he's 18 now and my case has been closed, but they went off a court order in Nevada that wasn't even filed in Nevada and wouldn't let me talk to him. And then when I finally talked to him, I find out he was in jail for not even hurting his grandma for 10 months in a high security Nevada jail. There was kid murders and stuff like that. Like
Wow.
it's run by DCF in Nevada, and it's just crazy because 2 different states, they just don't care. It's all the states.
Yeah.
So
That's what they're trying. That's why we're blowing the whistle on this is trafficking. They're not supposed to leave the jurisdiction. If they're in California, this and that's why the UCCJEA was so important. That a lot of people, well, this state did this and this state did that. Well, who had the original case in California? Like in your
Yeah.
case, and if they did the Nevada judge get permission from the judge, the actual judge that wrote the first order, when they took anything else for any of that other stuff?
Well, they amended the order a month after my case was dismissed, and they gave all my custody to his father. But they amended the order to the father had to file the paperwork, the court order in Nevada, and I know the father never did. So that was weird because even in the paperwork, on the record, it says in the amended one that the court has to file it and the father has to file it. So I figured it was filed, but I couldn't find a case on it. So, and
Well,
they just do whatever they
well,
want.
well, once again, it's one of those things. Did you do the paperwork? Did you file this? Did you do this? Did you do that? That builds your federal case. And like I said, if you know it doesn't exist, there's a smart way to do it, because sometimes with FOIAs and stuff like that, they'll try and do stuff where you got to pay for this or you got to do this. Just wait till you get to the federal court and say, hey, we know this doesn't exist. We can't find it. We can look at the record and there's no cost to do a FOIA or to review those things. But at the same time, that's where you work. And why? Because there's no cost for a federal subpoena. And then it's federal court and saying, where's this at? How did you proceed? That's when you start adding to the list and this and that, like I said. And now that he's aged out and over 18, he has the ability to sue the hell out of all of them too, with you as a joint lawsuit in federal court.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was very upset that he was turning 18, but I guess it's a good thing. But when he turned 18 a month ago, I thought, oh my gosh, like my chance of being a mother again, even though my relationship with him is good, but it was just like a kind of a point to where it was like a bitter, like I didn't get my custody back or anything, but I mean, I still have my son that, he's doing good. But it's, when he told me that he didn't hurt his grandma and he was in jail for domestic violence, that was like, I was like, oh, this all makes sense.
And that's where you got to watch it. If they use and review his case, if it has a criminal code and it was in, say, the juvenile or anything else, that's like you said, that's a criminal offense. Where's my jury? So now he has a massive due process thing of, if I'm convicted of a crime, which that's a criminal code, did he have a jury trial? Or was this done in juvenile court No. Okay, well, that's a criminal thing. Even for juveniles in a criminal case, which that's a criminal, once again, you bypass you're in the wrong courtroom. And this is what they've been doing. You start blowing the whistle on this and that, you're going to start catching a bunch of people up. And that's what we're trying to empower people to do, of saying, here's some constitutional questions. These things have now, once they're answered, they've been answered. We release it to the people and go, listen, go back to the court and say, now I want my kids. Say if question 1, it's all null and void, then they'll have to make adjustments. But now you've got the secondary thing of all the cases filing and start putting your cases together. That's what we're telling people now. Get your federal civil rights case done. Write it like a federal.
Oh, I've got 300 pages written.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, like you said, save some evidence. And I was thinking I have to submit all the evidence, but there's so much. And then now it's Nevada too. So I'm like, I don't even know. Like,
well, let me explain something too. Some of your motions and some of the other things, there's a little thing out there that the court clerk does. If you're over so many pages, they will kick it out just because it's too big. Okay. These constitutional questions, they're filed as exhibits.
Okay.
So there's a workaround if you know the system on how to play it. Of say, listen, I'll get this kicked out. How do I get around this? File a motion of notice of filing, and then like I said, you'll see some of that stuff in there. Matter of fact, you'll see. Let me show you guys. Let me show you real quick. This is what you're going to see in the drive. Let me see if I can do this here real quick. And where is it? Is that it? Let me see here. Nope, it's Chrome tab. Hold on. Nope, that's not it. Hold on. There we go. Found it. Sorry, I got a lot of windows open. Check this out. So guys, this is what you're going to see when you go in, when you open the folder. Which one? Okay, it's right here. So let me maximize this one so you guys can see it. These are all the actual filings. Okay, this is what's on PACER on the court record. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you want to know how to do your filings and how to do them, notice it once again in that release that I'm going to have for the national press release, which we showed earlier. It has the case numbers on there. Go to the 2026 filing on PACER, or look it up. Look at how I filed each individual one, a notice, a this, a that. Just match it up with what I did, and and it'll go through. I've already made it past the first shaving or cut. Matter of fact, my old case from 2025 that they dismissed is now alive because of the retaliation. And I turned in the retaliation. I got them on film.
Yeah, they're not too smart because everything is in the record, and it's all in the record,
Mm-hmm.
Especially, and I have all my paperwork. So like, I asked from it from day one because this has happened to me for years and years and years and years, and not me having civil case, just the systemic abuse of having. I have a mentally ill child who was in trouble all the time, and CPS knew us, and the law knew us in Nevada and California. We went to California, and that's a whole different state. Right. And I knew when they didn't call me at the hospital that something was wrong, because in Nevada, they won't talk to my son. They won't. No social worker could talk to my son until a parent is there. Yeah. And when they didn't call me in California, and I called them and they lied and said my son wasn't there, I knew it. I just knew. Yeah. I knew. Yeah, you guys really, if you've got a multi-state issue going on, look up the UCC JEA. Yeah. That must be filed. That's how states communicate with each other on any cases, whether it's criminal or anything else. And like I said, if it gets too complicated, the only one that has jurisdiction on, especially if the UCC JEA was not filed properly and the permission and the documents done, just straight up. Guys, I see a lot of you coming in here, popping in here that have seen it. You're asking about the questions. On the show page on Facebook, Gunning for the number 4 CPS, I'm going to release the national press release, which has an overview, and then you're going to have a link that goes to the drive that actually has those constitutional questions that are now filed in the federal court that must be answered. I'll probably be doing a TikTok and putting that link in there, as well as probably I got to figure out how to do some of the picture stuff in TikTok. I've been off of it for
They suspended me for 3 years until I got my press credentials. And now I love the fact that it's always been funny. Well, your video's been taken down for this violation, this, that. And I'll just turn around and I go, yeah, I don't think so. Here's my press credentials. It's on my page. This is freedom of press. And unless you want a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit, TikTok, you better put it back up. Less than 24 hours or usually 12 hours, boom, it's back up. Well, we've looked at your appeal and yeah, you're right. They tuck their tail. And I've had people come after me on Facebook and this and that and all sorts of other things. It's just like, yeah, that's not going on. Come on now. I mean, this is, you don't think I'm not going to sue you when I'm talking about an active federal case? I mean, come on. And this is where I think a lot of people just don't understand it. And this is the problem, though. This is the problem, Jim, that I think a lot of people don't understand. Is our founding framers said specifically, for this experiment known as a constitutional republic, which is what we have, for it to work requires a well-informed citizen. What does that mean? Well-informed citizen means you have to know the Constitution. You've got to know your rights. And here's the other thing. That's why they come up with half of these other things to go into a federal court, that you didn't need an attorney or a lawyer. Because if you'll notice the way it's actually written, that you have a right to counsel. Doesn't say attorney or lawyer. They actually changed that. Why did it say counsel? Because the average American was supposed to be educated on how the federal court system works and the constitutional rights. This was supposed to be common knowledge. But what did they do? The public school system didn't teach it. Did you get a whole lot of stuff on government on how this stuff works and the rights and how it works and fits into everyday life? Nobody did. I had a good teacher that was actually, when I was in high school way back when, that actually was an old hippie from the 60s and 70s that they protested. They did this, they did that. And a lot of other people that were different color that say, hey, I marched with Martin Luther King. And yeah, they were educated on their rights. They knew how stuff worked. They hated it to where they turn around. No, this is what we were talking about. This is that shadow government that's been around for the longest time, the corruption, the underbelly, the dark side of these people, which, once again, this is why Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 was specifically put in there by Alexander Hamilton to turn around and say, so you can't have a group of people that gets into power in your state and go after individuals or groups because they didn't like them or they wanted power or control. So who's the group? The American family. Who's the individual? You and I. This is why this is never supposed to be in the state courts. They're biased.
Yeah. I'm homeless living in a van because of they took my housing in San Diego when they took my child, and I've been on the street ever since. But I did go and protest one day. Well, for a couple days, for a week, because I had no place to go. So I was like, I'm going to go put up a tent, and I put up signs about my First Amendment rights and put all this stuff about CPS. Mm-hmm. And ever since, the cops have pretty much left me alone because, I've told them, you guys took my child, you took my housing, you took everything. I didn't do anything. My son had a mental disability. He had a breakdown, an episode, and you guys didn't do it as you turned it around as child abuse when it was a child having a mental health, a crisis. But I do have one question. Sure. After Nevada this past year, when my son was in jail in Nevada, I filed stuff with the court, and they accepted it. It says accepted it. It still says it's accepted. And that was when he first went to his hearing, and they wouldn't tell me anything because I don't know. I know my mother probably has something to do with this because she politically connected or whatever. But so then when he was about to get out and he was going to be released to the person he supposedly abused, and a judge has not released him to the victim before, so why is he going to be released to a victim again? But then I find out he never abused her, so she's not technically a victim. But anyway, so I filed stuff with the court again, and it said accepted. So then I'm talking to the clerk, and the clerk goes, oh, no, and I filed as an interpleader to the case because they were saying, oh, I can't file anything as a parent, and because I have no rights, or because I lost my custody, which I still have my
Losing
parental
custody is
rights.
not the same thing as losing your rights. Yeah, there's a complete difference.
So if they accepted my stuff in the court, it says accepted, but they never ever replied to it. They just ignored it twice. Like what? That's what I'm scared about doing. That
okay.
again. That's what happened to me.
Darren could deal with that because that's actually a violation of, and I think Darren may have the specifics if he's still back there. That's actually against judicial canons, because they have to review every filing and address every filing under the judicial
and I
canons.
have it too, where my email, when it shows me when they opened it. So I've got that, like, you know, so I know if they opened it or not because I sent it and made sure I was serving everybody, you know, his probation officer, everything. And they just, I even sent an email to the judge that was a judge before in my son's case, and now she's the head judge, and they never have sent me anything back. They just,
and that's
says,
something you use every single one of those filings. Once again, these are examples, and this is what I'm talking about. The same thing I did, and I'm telling you that because I'm not practicing law. You know, this is, you know, I'm not a lawyer or anything else. I'm telling you what I did. That's what you use as exhibits in your federal filing to say, here, judge, look. And then what you do under your complaint is you cite exhibit A, B, C, D, this, and you'll see that in my filing. That's why I said, go to my filing. It's a great template that a lot of people say, well, how do I get my, keep your emotion out of it. Keep it under a certain page. Look at the rules of federal civil procedure because they're different than anything else. You got to follow those. AI can be a very strong research tool, but make sure anything that AI is giving to you, you're looking it up yourself and you fully understand it. Because remember this, your arguments on paper is just to say enough just to get into the court. This is why you have other times during a federal, we'll say a federal civil, let me give you an example. You go through the trimming, the meat and potatoes, this, that, and they say, okay, this is what you can sue under because that's the first part. That's the paperwork. Then you have discovery. Now that you've got your boundaries, if you will, then you go into discovery saying, hey, I need to subpoena this. I need to subpoena this. And you can do expedited subpoenas to support your file, saying, here, judge, look at this. Let me subpoena these things. And then you'll see them. And then, you know, hey, make them exhibit so-and-so or, you know, however it is. But it depends on how you're doing and what's needed. Then you have a time of discovery. And that you have up to a certain date to where, say, listen, this is where your subpoenas come in. This is where you interview witnesses. This is where you get this together. You've got a deadline that has to do for your witness list and potential witness list. Just because they're on your witness list doesn't mean you have to call them. So you can mess them up real bad and put like 100,000 people on there. And, you know, the judge go, whoa, wait a minute, or do an exhibit of saying, and there's ways of doing it. This is why, you know, we were telling a lot of people, and I was asking a lot of people, you know, listen, we're going to set up stuff and you guys can see, just go on the show, DM me this and that. We're actually working on an exhibit that we actually need help with all you guys that are watching, is all those videos you see on TikTok, Facebook, this and that. Copy the link, okay? And it's like CPS coming into the home, you know, without no warrant, or doing this or doing that. And they give a brief description, nothing 5 pages, just like 2 sentences. And we're going to turn that into an exhibit. And we're wanting hopefully somewhere around 20,000 or more videos. And to get these particular things, I think I have a previous post on there that had an email address and everything else to it. If not, just send it to the show, which is gunning4cps@yahoo.com. That's what you can send it to, which is the show link. And even if you guys want to do this state by state collectively or get together, yes, we could use that help tremendously. Just, you guys are on TikTok and social media all the time. You guys watch these videos, you can tell that's a 4th Amendment violation, or that's illegal, or you can go and just boom, right here's a 4th Amendment violation. Here's them doing this. This is ex parte, this is illegal. And get me those hot videos, because we can use those as evidence and exhibit, and then force them to say, listen, we can go through all these videos and show the jury. Or you can review them and say, listen, do you acknowledge that everything in this exhibit or in these videos that shows constitutional rights violations by state actors? Just that simple, whether it's the cops there with CPS, or CPS knocking on the door, or doing a removal or all these things. Get me about 20, 25,000 things. And that would be a great resource for you guys. Even somebody that would volunteer and get together with other groups and stuff, say, listen, guys, I need this, I need help. That's going to help all
You
of
can
us.
even put them in Notebook and put all those videos in Notebook, and it'll spit out a podcast or whatever you need.
Yeah, just the link to like wherever that video is, and just like I said, a short description. Then we'll probably put like on a spreadsheet or an Excel, because it's just a hyperlink, and then a brief description of what's in that hyperlink is huge. And it could be just for your state or anything, but tons of those things, you guys. And like I said, the show, it's Gunning for CPS. Like I said, just like the name of the show, but it's at Yahoo. Don't send it to Gmail, damn it. Everybody does that. Well, I sent it to you, Gunner. Did you send it to Gmail and not Yahoo? Yeah. And there's a reason we
I did that.
The reason we do that is because there are contracts with Gmail, which is now coming out in lawsuits, that Yahoo still has those original contracts that they're not going to share. They're going to keep privacy. There's a lot of things that Yahoo has. So that we're not compromised. And like I said, so we did some research on that besides doing our own. See, when I ran my own business, I had my own server, I had my own portal, I had my own everything, and my subcontracted IT department watched over all that stuff and make sure it did not happen or any of those things. But there's others that are just as much. And like I said, when we're working on a limited budget, like I said, I'm on disability because of congestive heart failure with an implant, with less than 10% of my heart left. I'm still out here fighting for myself and for you guys of just what I was raised.
I appreciate it. I know. I mean, I appreciate you, because I feel the same way. Like, they've taken everything, but my family doesn't talk to me, so nothing. I'm homeless, and I'm like, I don't have anything else to lose, and I feel like I have to do this, because what happened it's not true, and it's all in the record, and it shows that it's not true. So,
well, I was raised. My grandfather, a World War II veteran, and a lot of stuff he's seen and everything else, he would come back from there. And one of the things he always impressed on me that we're robbing our children of by CPS taking them is giving them our heritage, our stories, or where we came from, this and that. Is my grandfather always had a saying that he lived by. And it was right is right, wrong is wrong, and everything in between is bullshit. And no matter what happens, no matter if anybody or nobody's looking, he says, do the right thing. That's the integrity of the individual. He says, and
stand up for what's right and not what's wrong.
Yeah, and that's something he told me. He says, you can never buy that, no matter how much money you have. He says, it's the integrity of a person. And I will tell you that man had such respect that when he spoke, everybody knew to shut the fuck up, listen, and you better listen attentively, because what was coming out of his mouth was absolute truth. Whether you liked it or not, that's just the way it is. And they respected him for that. And that's something, you're right, no matter what clout, no matter this and that, that's something you can't buy, to know that people around don't go near that person. Why? Because they're going to do the right thing. And at the same time, they may win battle or they may lose battles. But understand that those type of people have a resolve. They will win the war. And that's where we're inspiring hope to you guys, like you, Jen, and several others. The fight's not over. Matter of fact, we've lost a lot of battles, but we've got a real shot now at exposing all of this and now declaring a win for the war for we the people. Because once this comes out, there's no going back. Especially question one. Yeah. Question one and the DOJ watching and everything else and all the other things listen, I've been dealing with this for a couple of years. And like I said, I've had contacts with several different political people. So I do know that this has gotten into the ear of the right people to where they're setting up. Do you really think him putting up these fraud units in every state was a mistake just because of Nick Shirley? Do you think him disposing or dispatching National Guard to all these major cities a little bit at a time on this and this and that. No, they're doing recon. They know where they're going to come in, because once this comes down, this means every bit of both state and local. In other words, the state is going to lose all their power till it becomes constitutional. It has to. That's why we've called this the reckoning and the return to the Constitution, because this has been going on for over 3 decades. And once you realize this, you're going to have a lot of people. Well, let me put it to you this way.
They're taking our children. They're making, they're in San Diego. I know they're making, making the homeless more homeless.
Yeah.
Like, I have another girlfriend. Her car got taken like my car did,
Right.
from the sheriffs, and totally blew away our rights. But
Right.
and they're just they don't care. And
Right.
and I give them a notice that says my rights. Please don't tow my car. This is what I live in.
Right.
And putting them on notice, and I have a recording. One officer, he wouldn't take the notice from me. So I just said, well, just to let you know, I'm recording you, sir. And he goes, I'm recording you too. And I said, okay. And I started to read it to him. And after I said to him, in the part it says, and you took an oath to the office of the Constitution, his whole tune with me, because he was adamant to tow the cars that night. He didn't care about anything. And then when I read that to him, he was a different person.
So
So
I think the biggest thing that I think and you guys have seen, and I'll ask both of you this here, do you find it that you get people are more responsive when you give them an educational answer or an educational statement? Do you see them change? Like what you were saying, hey, didn't you take an oath? And that, now all of a sudden they're worried about their paycheck.
I think some people, they just don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe it when I tell them they can get, you need to start getting your evidence for your cases, like, to get your kids, like you're like, I have a girlfriend, she's about to get her rights terminated any minute. And I try to help them, but they gotta want to help themselves too. But I was talking with another guy who he's a scientist, and he's homeless, been homeless and from the government. And it's almost like people do not want to, they don't want to believe what's going on,
Yeah.
No.
They'll listen, but those people that do know about it and do know their rights, and like this guy's a scientist who is a hippie, an old man, and he says, some people you can talk to and they'll listen and they'll understand, and some people they don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe that, they just want to, they'll just, what the government wants us to do, just follow and what they want us to do, go to jail and,
Right.
get our kids
Yeah,
taken.
there's definitely a big thing with retaliation. Brandy, do you see the same thing when you tend to confront some of these people or officers, and you see a change in their demeanor when they're educated, like, reasonable articulated suspicion, reasonable articulated fact, and some of those things, to where, oh, wait a minute, this and that. I mean, a lot of these things, do you see a change in demeanor when you confront them? I mean, now that we're becoming more educated.
Not yet. Not here in Pennsylvania at any rate.
Yeah.
They still feel that they have the right to do whatever they want here.
Now, a lot of kids in Pennsylvania, though, a lot of them are, from my understanding, are going to Amish families.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So, but, I think the biggest thing is, yeah, I believe that people, compared to where we were a year ago, we have probably increased in awareness at least 700 to 800%. At least.
I agree.
Yeah.
On that.
And now we're getting attention of this, attention of that. Now there's mass corruption. And I think the biggest thing that we see now, especially in the news, especially where I'm at here, teachers, law enforcement, child pornography, touching children, people that are in public school system or access to children constantly. And let alone I don't know if you follow Blount County, Tennessee, but there was one case here where a teacher was accused and or tried for touching, well, supposedly it was close to 100 kids, but he only stood trial for a little bit over 20. But they found him guilty of this, inappropriately touching children, and it was a school teacher. And this,
we just had that here.
Disputed around a bunch of times where they convicted him. He got 6 months, and if he behaved for 6 months, Yeah.
Yep.
It went off his record. And until people started taking and making a fit, they only suspended his teacher's license for, I think it was 2 years. Now he can get back to kids in 2 years.
That's crazy. We just had last year, we had a teacher get accused and fired. I don't know what's going on with this case. I haven't really kept up with it or anything, but he did get fired, and I think he did get charged.
Yeah, I mean, where are the crime? Where's the punishment for this criminal aspect? And then you'll have the district attorney gave it to the locals here, and they just flipped out. I'm just going with the with the federal, and once again, this proves what we want these people loose on the street reoffending, because it creates more CPS money, more cases, more victims, more this, and then you look at the statistics of like the children growing up in the system, where girls that are of the age of 16, they have I think it's like a 60% chance of being pregnant, teenage pregnancy. You've got kids both sexes in and out of criminal court, or because of retaliation, because they don't want to be there, or they know it's a lie, this and that, which then leads into more abuse, or putting into foster homes and this that, where they're truly abused by people, complete strangers, that the state says you're safe with these people and they're not. Then you got this other whistleblower that talks about how good adoption is and everything else, or foster care, and they go to these things of going, oh no, you got to have a kid, and it's all about money. They don't give a shit about the kids. No, and then this perpetuates them into what? To the federal. This goes into the prison system. This is about making money. This is about creating criminals.
In California, I have a girlfriend. Her daughter is about 16 years old. She's still in the foster care, like Polinsky's, and they're offering the kids an apartment if they stay in there, an apartment with and to go to college, and they're paying for their college, and offering her an apartment to stay in after when she turns 18, and paying for her college. And the girl is like, her daughter's like, yeah, I'm going to do this. She believes them because they've been brainwashing her. And I'm like, they're just, trying to explain it to a teenager that's hard.
Okay. Well, now let me explain something that a lot of people don't know. Look at the contracts they sign when they do that, because a lot of those in there says that you won't go back and sue the state for what happened to you when you were under 18, and because you're 18, you're an adult, and now it's legally binding. You can't go after them.
I'll have to tell her that, because she's just thinking that she's a teenager. She's about to be 18, that she's going to have a place to live.
At a state-sponsored school and everything else, and no loans. You're looking at what, $30,000 to $50,000, depending on the school, times 4 years or per semester. I don't know, whatever the math comes out. But you're looking at what, $250,000 for a college education, when you could be receiving
grants are going to pay for
$5 to $10 million in a federal lawsuit you could win. They're buying you off on pennies on the dollar.
Right.
It's a payoff. Once again, this is a cover-up. It's never been about the kids. If you look at the constitutional filings, the questions that we submit, we know all about all of it. This is a cover-up. Once again, full disclosure. You understand under contract law, you have to do full disclosure. Did you? Well, it's in there somewhere. And then it's always that little wording that you'll agree not to do anything. In other words, if we're going to offer you this, you can't come after us. And I've looked at all of those things, and it's just like, no, hell to the no. That is no. Once again, it's a cover-up. Why? Because now you can't go after them. Why? Because they know notice all these programs started going out, and look at the original filings of when I filed these, of how many programs all of a sudden pop out of nowhere to make this a good thing.
Yeah, when I asked them for, who can help a family with housing, a social worker can. They're the one who gets the stuff. But you have a CPS agent, and I told her, well, aren't you guys haven't offered me housing? You got my housing taken away, so and she goes, oh well, it's a little too late for that, and so it's like, I had a reunification case. They go, okay, well, in the end, when I had my trial, because I had a contested trial, they're like, oh, well, we can't, the mother isn't, she doesn't have a place to live. Well, I do have a place to live when I have my kid, because if you don't have your kid, you can't get housing through the state, and it's just
well, now you have to look at another thing too. That's discrimination, because there are several people that live on the road, whether their jobs, I mean, whether you're an oil worker or a lineman or something like this, a lot of people homeschool and they travel with their families. And these people have jobs all over the country and they want to stay together as a family and they won't buy a house and they travel. That's discrimination.
Well, yeah, and there was a housing crisis going on in California in 2022. To find a place to live, it was crazy lines. Like I've never had a problem finding a place to live, and it was just.
Well, you can take some of the people that came here to Tennessee and take them back to California. I'll tell you that much. Oh my gosh.
I'm in the same situation here. I'm homeless at the moment. And they won't help me. They won't even let me move in with my mom because my kids are there.
See, that's but it's just crazy, and back to your question about people that I brought up my rights to. I did have my first judge in my case because I brought up my rights, said my rights right away from the first hearing. Mm-hmm. And they told me I couldn't bring up my constitutional rights. This wasn't the right court. Well, I said, well, I'm not in the right court. This needs to be moved to federal court. And the lawyer said, no, you can't bring that up right now. And I was confused because I didn't understand, and then I brought it up.
This is not a constitutional court. If this is not a court of record, and this is a quasi-judicial courtroom that requires my participation for this to go forward. In other words, by consent or contract law, which is the only way the state can interact with you, then yeah, we need to move this. But once again, they're going to discourage against this because once again, that would expose them. And of course, that's a cover-up.
And my second hearing, I have it recorded. I didn't even mean to record it, but I told the judge that, look, this isn't in the correct court. I'm contesting the jurisdiction, and this is, my rights have been violated. My son's rights are being violated. This is not in the right court. And he got upset, and he's like, this is not a kitchen table, all this stuff. But I never saw that judge again. He stepped down off my case. And my lawyer lied to me and said, oh, he retired. Well, I looked him up. He still had cases. He didn't retire. And then the next judge in California, he's done this too, that I know of, 4 of them in San Diego. And I guess to the FBI to investigate families to complain about a judge. So he's, it's bad. And, I've talked to some other families, that like they do retaliate against you bad, and I feel bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's scares me because that's why I have a Cane Corso. This is my guard dog, because I don't know what could happen to me. I could, but.
Well, and there's a lot of misinformation. That's one, like what you were talking about. Then we had somebody in the comments go, oh, don't use that sovereign citizen stuff. No, we address the sovereign citizen stuff because that's the first thing. I'm sure you guys, especially out in California and probably Pennsylvania, they say, well, I'm a sovereign citizen. And the cops just look at you, oh, here we go with that sovereign citizen crap. Oh, really? So you disagree? I throw it right back up in their face. So you're, once again, not one of the highest judges in the land acknowledges this, and here's the publication, and here's this, and here's that, but you're going to make fun of it? I says, actually, because you've done that, you just violated your oath because you're saying that you're going against a member of SCOTUS. Gotcha. Put that in your report. Oh, wait, I got you on film saying that shit. Guess what? Go have a conversation with the chief, with one of the members of SCOTUS, because you know how that's going to look in federal court? They're going to slap the shit out of you in federal court for saying shit against a fucking member of SCOTUS. They will hammer your ass to say, making fun of this when the Supreme Court has acknowledged this. That tells me that you are not constitutional. You are violating your oath by saying you don't acknowledge the sovereign citizen when the Supreme Court recognizes it. And here's publications here and there, or even your judges or magistrate. I ain't going to list that sovereign. Really? So you've just admitted that you're not going to follow SCOTUS and SCOTUS rulings and everything else, which means you've just violated your oath, Judge, on the record.
And it says in like the CPS manual here in California, it says that they're supposed to, the social workers are supposed to stand up for the parents' rights and the child's rights, the family's constitutional rights. And my social worker said, it's on the record, says, well, right now the mother is, she's standing up for her rights. So until she stops, then, like you're supposed to be standing up for my rights. Like,
The scariest thing, here's the thing. When you take that oath and you're a state or government worker, part of that, especially judges and magistrates, that not only are they supposed to follow the Constitution, they're supposed to run to the aid of the Constitution when it's in distress or even challenged. A lot of people don't know that. That means you're supposed to protect the Constitution. So when you throw the Constitution out of the courtroom, that means this courtroom is null and void. And when you turn around and do that, sovereign citizen stuff has failed in so many jurisdictions. It goes against criminal, civil, and this in every state of the federal union. Well, let me take and deal with that right there. If you missed it earlier, sitting members of SCOTUS, matter of fact, Neil Gorsuch specifically has written that we, the people, are the only true sovereigns. That's in his publication. And to argue with a sitting member of SCOTUS, let alone other members of SCOTUS that have repeated the same thing, means they just violated their oath to uphold the Constitution, because the only one that can interpret it is the Supreme Court. They're the only ones. So if they throw that up and somebody throws it out, that means you have to report them for gross negligence and not following, because once again, the Chevron doctrine's dead. They have to follow the higher court rulings. You just made fun of a sitting member of SCOTUS. Do you realize that that is a huge problem from where you sit? Once again, it's perspective and how you file. Well, I got with this in sovereign, but once you turn around and quote sitting members of SCOTUS, their publications and everything else, but I'm wrong about being sovereign, you better go talk to the highest court in the land that's over you. Matter of fact, they're over your ass. So if you're not going to follow them, that means you're defiant against the Constitution. And why are you defiant against the Constitution? You just committed an act of war against the Constitution by saying you're not going to follow what SCOTUS says. Because Chevron's dead, so you must. Go ahead.
I have a question for one of the comments for the Abel Wiley. It says that your parental rights are intact and your ex had sole custody, so you had no legal standing to argue. Which that, you know, my legal rights were, I lost my full custody and legal custody. But here's the thing, isn't it like, so they didn't terminate my rights, but basically they did if I don't have any legal custody. Legal, you know, so when a child is in jail, I can't even say anything for them, but I still have my parental rights. So that's why I'm really confused, because it's like the judges were telling me we can't give you any information, yet I still have visits with my son and they wouldn't let us talk. But losing your legal custody, is that the same? I mean, I feel like, and I didn't know this until this happened, but I didn't know what losing your legal custody really was until I had a child that was in jail and I couldn't speak to him. But to me, it feels like that's the same as terminating my rights.
Well, let's address some of the things that were going on here, and I've got a little suspicion on this one too. You realize that there's a decent and an opinion in the Supreme Court and every lower court. No, there is not. The Chevron doctrine is dead. It was overturned. So that opinion goes away. They no longer have that. That is no longer accurate. They must follow the rulings of the higher courts, including the Supreme Court. So that is no longer true. That is a big misconception by a lot of people that don't follow case law or rulings or anything else, saying, well, the lower courts can have their opinion or do this, that. No, they can't anymore. Matter of fact, that's one of the things you probably need to do that.
My child wasn't 18.
You have to put that down. Yeah, in the Chevron doctrine, you have to put that in your filings. No, the court does not have this discretion to make these statements or these rulings or anything else, because the Chevron, once again, you have to tell the court in your filings, especially with federal, why it's not. No, they do not have that discretion. Why? Chevron was overturned. And if you heard the other, he wasn't 18. This was happening when they had. He's just now aged out of the system. Correct, Jen?
Yeah, they were going to age him out, keep him in until he was 18. He got released a month earlier than before he turned 18. But if I say a parent was in the same situation as me, as they lost their legal custody and their full custody, and then their son ends up going to jail a couple years later. What is the parent supposed to do, even though they have their rights? Like I told the first judge, when I said, sir, I still have my legal parental rights. I mean, I can send you the custody order. It doesn't say my rights have been terminated. Why am I not? But I didn't know anything about the losing legal custody, so that's where I was
two different states, like she said, if you didn't catch earlier, they didn't follow the UCCJEA because California actually had jurisdiction. Another state took it over, but they have, by the UCCJEA, you have to get the first judge to sign off and give it that power or jurisdiction to the other state. They can't.
And it was never filed in the other state, the custody
so
order.
that means all those orders are considered null and void because the UCCJEA wasn't followed. Now, you said before, let me address one other thing here. It says, I'll say that to a judge, said it if you want to say so. No, what we're talking about, and we've dealt with this on other shows, saying something in court and filing something on the court record is completely different. Okay? You have to file this. So if you file, say a judge has done something and you didn't like it, well, at the end of the case, it's still open. You can still file stuff, or you have another date. Or even before you get in there, or the judge has hinted at it. Listen, you got to put that on record. This is where you file it. Why? Because if you don't file it, if you go to your state court of appeals, they're not going to look at what was said in the courtroom. They're going to look at just what was filed. You guys got to remember that. So everything you need to deal with, make sure it gets on the record. File a notice with the court. Hey, I notice that here's the citing of Neil Gorsuch saying this, or this Supreme Court judge saying this. The Chevron doctrine's overturned. You must follow the rulings of this, this, and that. You have to bind the court and let them know that you know this stuff to be true. So when it's looked at, and this is where a lot of people lose their appeals. Well, I said it in court, but did you file it? Well, no, that's why.
I did file it. I filed an emergency order with the court to stop the transport of my son to the victim, because I didn't know at that time if my son had really had an episode and hurt my mother, or if I didn't know what happened. So I was like, I don't want him to go back to jail, them to get in an argument like they always do, and she sends him to jail, and
But once again, did you have the UCCJEA that you quoted?
I put that in there too. Yeah.
Okay.
And the clerk told me that it got rejected. It still to this day shows that it's filed and accepted, and that I can't be an interpleader, and that I got an email.
Okay, guys. This is where you go to the next higher jurisdiction. This is what federal court is for. This is where you tie their hands and you go to federal court. I'm saying this is why you can go. You guys realize you can just go to the federal court to ask a question? Do you realize you can do in the lower court cases? You can stop your case in a state case and go, I have a constitutional question and I'm going to file it in the federal court, but now you must stop or do a stay of all proceedings till we get the answer of this. And when you do that, then you ask the question to the higher court of, like the 1983 civil rights section of under your filing, say this is a constitutional question, and you check the box. Ask the question, and then give the memorandum of law that would support your point of view. Then the judge is going to rule on it, which is going to make it binding in the lower court. So when your lower court, family court says, well, we're not going to deal with this and that and this. Oh, yes, we will. Watch this. I'm going to submit a constitutional question, then I'm going to bind your ass. And then when you don't do it, you know what happens when you don't follow it, Judge? I go back up to the federal court and I let the judge know you ignored that order. Uh-oh. Guess who just got in trouble with the federal court?
And I think they just were trying to age my son out, just to get him out of the juvenile system, which I mean, and
they get more. Listen, they get more money if they're a problem child, whether they're doing criminal stuff and they're in and out of this, or they get more money because it's a psychological thing, or this. There's a rating scale. They actually have charts on this stuff every state. You get more if the kid's more of a problem child. And if they're not, they're going to create it to be a problem child to make more money.
because my kid isn't he's not a criminal. He doesn't go out and do like criminal stuff. The most he did was like smoke pot, but he had DMDD, which he has these episodes where he flips out when I take his Xbox, or and to where it gets bad, and I call the police to have it, so I would never get my child taken away, so it'd be all documented, which it was until I went to California and they ignored all the evidence. But my question is, one last question. Since I have 2 different states, what state am I going to file in? Do I file in California that originated?
Original jurisdiction, yes, where the original crime did, and then you file with another state. Like in mine happened in Tennessee, but the retaliation crossed state lines into Kentucky. Well, I will be adding Kentucky to the case because it's connected through here, and because I have probable cause to add this with what they have. Like for an example, because they didn't follow the UCCJEA on the particular case, and it dealt with my previous plaintiff, which was now my ex-wife. They still mentioned me in there that a crime had been committed, that we had violated something, but there was no police report. In other words, they lied like their ass off, lied like a dog. Now, because they did that, but then they didn't follow the UCCJEA. Why? They never, what they did to circumvent it? CPS or the cabinet, as they call it in Kentucky, violated the UCCJEA because all they did was call CPS in Tennessee. And guess who sent over the sealed court records that in the state of Tennessee, all juvenile cases are sealed and must have the judge's signature to open or transfer those papers? CPS violated all that and bypassed that and the UCCJEA and sent over the court records to another state. That's a felony, a federal felony.
Oh, they sent my whole CPS record from Nevada to California, and
No, it's not.
and they said, oh well, she has so much. It's 300 pages. It's too much for us to read. Like, well, the prosecution should have read it, because it says right there in my appeal, the prosecution made it out like I was a terrible mother, but in the record it says that I'm not. Like,
just be careful of being too much and break it down sometimes into smaller sections of exhibits. And do it under topics, because if it gets that too big, you can't file that as your complaint has to be sweet and simple and under, I think, 30 pages.
Okay.
So, well, like I said, you can do that as an exhibit, as an affidavit of truth.
Okay.
That's, once again, another way to do it. That's just like some of these constitutional questions that I filed, you have to file as exhibits. Why? It was well over 30 pages. And once again, you got to follow those rules of federal civil procedure. Otherwise, the court clerk will go, why was my case denied? I go, did you break one of the rules? Was it over so many pages? Well, I have 500 pages of this and that. I go, tell me you didn't file that as your complaint. And they're like, well, yeah, I did. I go, that's where you screwed up. And yeah, they're going to kick it out as being moot.
Okay, and I have one more question.
Sure.
Because the comment the guy or girl said, well, so my statute of limitations in California, the case was in October 22, but I lost my custody in 23. But when I figured out all the stuff going on, like I didn't know all the fraud that had happened, but then in 2025 is when they were still violating my rights, not letting me speak to my son, I feel, and that my son went to jail and stuff, where he was in Nevada. He wasn't even supposed to be in Nevada.
The clock does not start for your statutes until it stops. If it's ongoing, it doesn't stop until, say, he ages out or anything else and stuff like that, and it was continued on. Now, in federal, there is no statute of limitations for fraud. And there's no statute of limitations for violating constitutional rights. There has been a big misdemeanor of, oh, well, it's 10 years, it's 5. That's your state shit. Who gives a fuck? I mean, to be honest, why? Because we're going to go into a real court.
Yeah, we're not going into state. We're going federal.
And this is where a lot of people, they're so caught up. They've learned so much about their state. They've learned about this. They've learned about this and this and that, or policies and procedures, or this, that. Hey, great. That's great as evidence. But when you file in federal court, it's a whole different game. It's not the same. You got to start from scratch. And the easiest way I can explain to people is Go look at the structure, the filing, and everything else on a federal criminal case. Why? Because that's the tightest you've ever seen with a filing. And it will, if you follow that structure, you got no problems. I've looked over several cases, hundreds of thousands of cases. Everyone that's structured just like a federal criminal case, how they do the charges, how they break it down, how they do the exhibits, how they do the complaints, and everything else, it's bulletproof. I mean, you can't fail. So long as you follow that and the rules of federal civil procedure, you're going to get past stuff. And I've had so many people come to me or this, or Gunner, can you look at this, or Gunner, and I can point it out right there. That's crazy. You can't do that. Once again, this is where you screwed up. This is why I say keep your emotions out of your complaint. It's as simple as this is the constitutional right that was violated, or this is the fraud. Here's the description of the players, and this is how I was impacted or harmed. Line by line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this and that, counting them off. This, this is the Constitution. Hey, they violated the Fourth Amendment. Okay, who violated the Fourth Amendment? Well, this person did, but also, like with mine, you connect the state. And how was I harmed? Once again, they violated the Fourth Amendment, my safety, my security, my persons. I felt violated, both, emotionally, spiritually. They've disrupted. Now you don't feel safe in your own home. All those things, just something quick and simple like that. And it's like, I don't know, maybe a paragraph, maybe 2. That's it. That's all you need. Something that simple. The other stuff and the details and the evidence and all the things, that's where you go, well, so-and-so did this and that. Well, here's exhibit so-and-so. The video, when they showed up, see exhibit so-and-so, of them actually coming in and watching them so the judge can actually look at it and go, where no warrant, there's no this, they're asking questions, and now you're going through, this is the stuff, and then you can do supporting case law. You can put this in there. Like I said, my case is out there. It's available to the public. It's on Pacer. We're going to give you guys the case numbers and everything else, and they're not the only one that takes and deals with it. Like I said, Pacer is the main core one, but I think there's some other websites that once it's been on there a while that you can, like Justia and a couple of the others.
And I can't, I think they have to send, I used to be on Pacer, but they have to send you something, and
yeah.
They have to send
I'm in because I have filings in there and I have electronic filing. So I have access to all of Pacer with what I have. But if not, yeah, you can sign up, and there's ways and some hoops to jump through and some of the other things that you can do. But if you have a federal case, you can request electronic filing, and then you're into the whole system. Is the way that works. Because I've given a lot of people say, hey, you can look up this and this, that. Yeah, I can look up just about any case digitally that's been digitized.
They charge you too.
I don't pay a dime. I don't pay a dime to look those up.
Go too much, I guess. That's what happened with me.
If you print and you go in and you look, once again, you can get free viewing. Yeah, they've changed some of that stuff too. But like I said, even Justia and some of the other ones, they have access to it. But like I said, that is the national filing system for the federal courts and Supreme Courts. You can do Court of Appeals, you can do this, you can do that, you can escalate. All of that stuff's in there. And like I said, all this stuff's on there. And like I said, I'm going to release the stuff for even doing news sources, this and that for you guys. Hey, here's this, here's the link. You can take and just add the link to what we're going to put on Facebook. If you've got open cases, guys, and just give it to your judge and file it on your case and let the judge know this is before the Supreme Court this is before the federal court right now, and may escalate to the Supreme Court, because we'll take it there.
The week, Gunner, that I was trying to stop my son being transferred back to the victim of the case, I had filed, I did my affidavit for you, and I emailed that to you, and I had told the court that I was, that I was, a witness for CPS and stuff, because I had also filed a complaint with CPS, in Nevada. They never responded to me at all either, because I'm like, a judge before, head judge, how is somebody going to release an abused?
It's a conflict of interest. Yeah, I mean, if that's true, they're not supposed to, because then that allows both the victim and the perpetrator to redo that, and they can't do that. Once again, that proves kind of your case. Why would you release them back to this if that person that doesn't make any sense?
Yeah.
And once again, you get it before a jury, they're going to look at that with some common sense and go, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And they'll go, the hell were you thinking? That's because it never happened.
Yeah.
And that's where you can gather affidavits of truth from, your son and affidavit of truth from, possibly your mother or anything. Hey, that never happened with both of them. And this was all fabricated stuff. Now that looks really, really bad.
Yeah.
Once again, you're the author. Once again, Tiff always says from Tiff and the Punisher, the first one in the courthouse wins so long as you file the right way. That's the way it goes. And which usually happens with CPS cases. What happens? They're the first one in the courthouse. Until you hold their feet to the fire and actually hold them to all the national standard and get up to all the case law and everything else with everything else, because they ain't going to tell you that, because they train their people to go knocking on doors all the time.
Yeah, there was a comment that said that you don't want to go against CPS, and I know that in California that my child was, they blackballed me because I stood up to CPS. I said, I don't need to talk to you guys. I've already been through CPS before years ago, and I've dealt with them in Nevada, and I'm not going to sign a safety plan. I need a lawyer present, and I didn't hurt my son or do anything, so I'm not gonna do anything with you guys. Like, but she turned around as I was just not complying with them, but I hadn't known my rights and I was blackballed.
Well, once again, why are you here to knock on my door and everything else, and then you run to a family court, and then our very first constitutional question is the 10th Amendment, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, which, yes, you guys have heard that term before out of Tanawa Downing, because if you guys don't know, Jessica Saxon and I are from the same county and same state. So somebody overheard my conversation of why I was working on my case and go, yeah, he's not wrong, and ran with it. And once again, you can't go directly to SCOTUS, which is what I kept laughing, because sure enough, I'm like, you realize you got to go through division court and have a case, and then you've got to do this, and then you've got to escalate it here, and then you've got to do this. And this is the structure of the federal court that, like, Tanawa was completely missing. And I'm over here just laughing. I'm like, tell me you're clueless about the federal court system without telling me you're clueless about I'm going to run right into SCOTUS and I'm going to turn in all these affidavits and I'm going to expose it to the court and everything. No, you're not, because that's not the procedures you have to go through. That's, and sure enough, a lot of that came out, but this is the proper way to do it, to where I've done the constitutional questions. If they don't answer them the way I know they should, I have the right to appeal them and everything else right into the Supreme Court, to where I'm in. You're not going to SCOTUS. SCOTUS is just the Supreme Court of the United States, which includes the appellate court. You're talking about the SCOTUS panel. There's once again, not knowing the terminology. And there's also a Chief Justice of that, which right now is Chief John is the one on the rotation now for the Chief Justice. You can call those out, and there's certain things they can do and certain things they can't do. But if you think you're a fool, you can run up there with a bunch of affidavits and go, how dare we, to the SCOTUS panel. Dude, you realize they only hear like less than 2% of the cases that are even petitioned to go? That's a 98% rejection rate.
Yeah.
And once it goes now, but listen, if you go to Supreme Court, whether it's the Court of Appeals, the Chief Justice for the Supreme Court, or you get to the SCOTUS panel for the review or anything else, once it goes to there, or they reject it and kick it back, say, I want this and that, and then say the state doesn't appeal, and then it goes up through there, and then they kick it back and say, no, we're not going to do this, or we're going to agree with the ruling. That's when it becomes national. But once again, we're not going after case law. We're looking to set precedents with these questions and the case and everything else, like Marbury versus Madison. And I think that's where a lot of people misunderstand of saying, no, we're going for that thing of like every case you walk into, you're going to slap this stuff out. That's why we asked the questions we did, because it closes every single loophole that they exploit.
When after my appeal, I had another bad attorney that she wouldn't set the record straight of, and I asked her and anyways, so my appeal my appeal was done, and she didn't let me know in a time frame where I could have filed a de novo
review.
And so I filed it late, but I got an email from the clerk that said, this is in California, that said, I was told I can't file this. You can't file this. So, and I figured it's over the 2 weeks or whatever you have to do it was for a rehearing. So by that time I was so exhausted. I just stopped.
It's very stressful and everything. And to answer this thing out here with the ones that we've been talking to here in the comments, not even your local judges handle family law well. The federal court is a very high standard as CPS works in family law. I hate it, but that's why I'm here. Well, that's the whole point of constitutional question 1. Your local family judges who are never supposed to hear these cases under the Constitution due to a massive conflict of interest and an extreme bias, which everybody that's had to deal with CPS has experienced. They never had jurisdiction. That's the whole point we're bringing up. That's why we're sharing that stuff. Well, Jen, Brandy, thanks for joining me. And man, get the word out there for the reckoning. And let's empower more parents and people and let them know that there's hope now. And we have a real shot at getting this thing and actually shutting down CPS and exposing them all the way up and down. And don't forget, check out Gunning for CPS on the Facebook, because we're getting ready to release that stuff here shortly.
I'm opening a TikTok shop, and I was thinking about making a shirt that says thinking about you, no fucks given or something. So,
well, you know, I've still got a few in the jar here, but I'm burning, and I've saved these because this is what I have left of fucks to give for the rest of my life. And well, I've got to deal with family and everything else, but yeah, there's, you know, as we say, everybody just starts running, goes, you know, like this. But if you'll see, there's a fuck, and right there, and there's another fuck. So my daughter actually turned around. She goes, Dad, I know you don't have much, and you were dealing with this and that. She goes, but listen, this is a whole jar and literally of fucks to give, and literally that's what this is for. And says, listen, you've only got so many to give. I says, well, most of that's left for a few other things. But I said, some of these people, I'm sure as hell not giving a fuck about them, because they're not even worthy of giving a fuck to.
No, they definitely don't care about us.
And like I said, this brings it down, and hopefully we've got enough in play. And I believe the powers that be are aware of what's going on, because they have to be. Even the attorney general, which still has to report to the president of, oh, we got a problem. I think they're ready. They're already calling out the bar. They're already calling out this. They're already doing this. They're always doing that. And then everybody's like, well, Melina said something about foster care and this. And I go, you guys do realize when this all goes down and everything else, it's not going to be our kids that they're going to be getting, because you realize these are all crimes against children for the judges, the magistrate, the CPS, the lawman, and all these other people, which means all their children will have to be taken.
You know, last night Trump was doing a thing, and they were saying how he's doing this no crime stuff, and all these crimes that the feds are stopping, and all the stuff. And I wrote on the thing, I said, well, why don't they start stopping the crimes in the federal court of you guys kidnapping our kids, and then Trump will be doing a good job, because yeah, you're getting all the criminals, but why don't you get the criminals in the court?
Listen, we have to keep perspective on this. One, he did return the power to we the people. It's up to us. You got to forget, we can't point, and this is where I have had this conversation with a lot of people, and yeah, I spoke to like Robert Garza. Robert Garza's on board with us with what we're doing, fully aware. Several other peoples of other movements that are going on with this and that. This is one thing we have to understand. Stop begging those that work for us. We're the ones that make the demands. We're the ones that allow this stuff. They have no power but what we allow. We need to take that power back, and we need to realize we are the ants. They're just merely grasshoppers. And when we come to the realization of we the people, which was the foundation of our country, and return to that Constitution, this will stop. But it will expose the whole shadow government and the evils that are going on, to say, now you're accountable, and all those things that you like, the clout, the money, the power, the property, the toys, the this and that. Guess what? It's all gone, because they're going to come in and they're going to seize it. Why? Because you know how many people judges or magistrates see a year? And this has been going on for over 30 years. You have now profited from illegal activity, RICO actions. They will seize everything, because people have to be made whole.
Yeah.
Besides their children. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
We've experimented with you guys a little bit here of first having a guest, of not having a queue, but opening up to the audience. So I'd say this is pretty successful the best we can, and I think it worked. You guys both got it off the Facebook page?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the QR thing's kind of crap.
And Tiff.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
Have
We're
a
going to
good
wrap
night,
things
Jen.
up here. And thanks again, Jen, for coming on. And Brandy, appreciate you guys and all the
Thanks,
support
Brandy.
and
Good
just
luck.
dropping
Yeah,
that
you too,
knowledge.
Jen.
Talk to you guys later.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye.
Well, guys, there you have it. Constitutional questions have been submitted. We've gone over them. We're getting ready to release them on Facebook, on the show channel, to where you guys will have not only the national release as well as an overview of the constitutional questions, but access to the link to a drive that has all the filed stuff. So you can either go to Pacer or you can get them direct here. This is the stuff that was filed. It's been mailed out to both the state attorney general in my state, as well as the U.S. attorney generals of all constitutional questions, which are required under federal rules of civil procedures for notification, especially on constitutional questions. So what we're going to end up, guys, I'm excited. I'm excited for all this stuff. And once again, this is going to end a lot of garbage. And
the families are coming for them.
and it's
This
up
is the reckoning.
every single one of you, every parent that's been done wrong, this and that by these courts. And just to clarify, if there's been a criminal act that's happened to where you've been found guilty in a criminal court, that's not what this is about. This is about those cases that there was no criminal acts. There was nothing there. Well, what's it matter? According to some of the hearings and stuff we do, what's it matter? You get slapped on the wrist, 6 months, you're back at it. Hell, in Blount County, according to the state board, after a year and a half, they can go back to teaching. 2 years, they can go back to teaching and get back in touch with kids for more repeat offenders. Guys, this is about our children. This is not about the best interest. This is about, once again, we the people and protecting we the people, including our children. And our children do have constitutional rights. And that's what this is going to come out and say. And then once you realize and start pointing these out of saying, this happened in my case, or this is what they do, and either produce this or that, now we got a problem. Because remember, you got statutes of limitations for this and that to do, but remember, you can always file a Rule 60. A Rule 60 in your state means that something, or there was a mass gross error upon the court at any given time. Once again, it's not legal advice. This is all stuff that's freely available for you to research and find out in there. The internet, books, library, once again, doesn't take a $500,000 investment in education when a library card is now free or $1.50 to get a card. And the internet. And once again, this is what they hate: knowledge, information. This is how we're coming after them, and this is what sucks because they've been caught. Guys, thanks again for joining us. Join us again next week. That's at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, several other platforms, but we always recommend YouTube so we can talk. And next week, we're going to start going over each constitutional question. Now, we've already covered constitutional question number 1. We will go in next week into great detail into constitutional question number 2, what was filed, what it means, and to go through it and dissect it piece by piece. And hopefully, Darren, our producer, will be able to take and join us next week and really get into this stuff a whole lot more in depth. But join us again next week. And guys, don't forget to piss somebody off this week, especially with this knowledge, because damn, this shit's like nuclear, like melt your hands and your face type stuff. But we'll see you again next week, guys. Have a great week.
Gunning for CPS. Gunning for CPS. Just